Welcome to the next episode of the Iowa Girls Wrestling Stories podcast. Today, my guest is kind of an older friend. She's a Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union and AAU state place winner. Been to Florida with me from Manson, Northwest Webster. Lucy Cohn, how you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
Very good. I thought, I would start with your decision to go to Iowa Central and some of the things that maybe went into that. What were your reasonings behind that?
Um, well, I'll start with the coaches. April Ritz was Manson alumni. Well, is a Manson alumni. My coaches were her coaches. I think she graduated 2010, 2011. So I think long before me or any of my family were in the Manson community. Um, but she is, I think, still currently the only girl on the wall in our wrestling room for AU place winners. And so I've always recognized the name. And then I remember one day I asked my coach Mitch about her, and he just could not stop talking about her, how tough and how good of a wrestler she was. And then when I found out she was the Iowa Central coach, I started like kind of looking into that program a little bit. Um, Iowa Central as a school has always been a option for me. Well, it's always been on the horizon for me, as it's very close to my school. But and then I just kind of started looking into it, got to know April more, got to know Zach more, and it just kind of felt right. So I chose Iowa Central.
What major are you going to have when you go to Iowa Central?
Um, I'm going to get my associates in mathematics, and then I'm not really sure what I'm going to do after I graduate from Iowa Central. I have a couple options, but we'll see where my priorities are. If I'm going to continue wrestling and just kind of stuff I'll figure out while at Iowa Central.
Gotcha. And so what do you know the ultimate goal yet as far as, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because I still don't know
Yeah,
yet, but
yeah.
but
I have ideas of things I'm interested in, such as engineering to maybe being a teacher. And I just really enjoy math. And I think that I'll be successful studying that at Iowa.
oh yeah. And those are two things. My brother's a math teacher and his friends are engineers. I'll tell you the wage difference on those two is slightly different.
Oh yeah.
But there's reasons to do both. I mean,
Oh
if
yeah.
if you like kids and you want to continue on that, that's a great way to go. Engineering, obviously, very good career, way above my pay grade and my capabilities and stuff. The facilities at Iowa Central are pretty decent. I go there every year
Yeah.
for the dual tournament. I know that they were talking about maybe moving that dual tournament into another field house. Have you seen all the facilities there for wrestling?
Yes, on the tours. I've seen the wrestling room, the training room. They like the rec center for students, and they're pretty nice. And I'm really excited to go to there next year. There's a lot of
Yeah.
freedom
Yeah,
with
no, Iowa
that too.
Central is I love that 2-year option that we have in Iowa. Not a lot of states have as many 2-year schools or any 2-year schools that are having women's wrestling. I think there's five, maybe six different options for kids to go. Because how many times do you see somebody go to, and I'm not saying they're bad, but like Grandview or BV and spend $40,000 and then like, oh wait, I don't know if I want to wrestle, you know,
Yes,
and then they're transferring out.
that was a big factor that I looked into when reaching out to coaches. And it's the price is definitely something that held me back from maybe talking to a couple programs and that stuff. But
Yeah, no, it's definitely can be a big deal. So getting started wrestling, what year were you in school when you started wrestling?
my first season of wrestling was my sophomore year, but I think after they announced that they were going to have a sanctioned girls season and my school announced that they were going to have a season, um, I started practicing maybe like March. I think that would be 2021. So yeah.
So you actually weren't the first girl in your family to wrestle.
No, no, I was
So
not. My younger sister Gertie, she's in eighth grade. I think she started wrestling when she was about 6, so that would be about maybe 7 years ago. Yeah. Um, she never really competed much, but she went to practices with my brother and my dad. And I think my youngest sister, Hazel, she's 10, and I think she started wrestling around 4 years ago. So she's, yeah, both my sisters have been wrestling longer than me. So,
Yeah. So I met your family through the BVU practices
oh yeah,
and stuff. So I know your brother, I know your mom and dad, I knew your little sisters before I knew you, and stuff.
yeah.
So you've been to several of those practices. What do you think? It's kind of a unique setup, a unique environment, because we bring people in from all over the place. What have you liked about practicing at the BVU practices?
I've been going there for a couple of years, so we've have gone through phases. Some practices where they're harder, or in some practices where they're more technical. Um, I think there's advantages to both. I really enjoy the technical practices because when I'm not competing, I don't often need that like to be in physical shape to wrestle, but just keeping my mind working on how moves go together and just keeping my muscle memory on that stuff is very beneficial. Um,
Yeah.
and
No, I've
obviously when
seen, no, I don't
oh
want to interrupt you or anything, but I've
sorry.
watched I've watched you start, in just a few short years, go from being a beginner wrestler to obviously someone who's placing at the state wrestling tournament. It's been
Yeah.
really kind of fun to watch, so you've picked up really well. So obviously you've had good coaching somewhere all around. Your family's been involved in wrestling. Your older brother's a very good wrestler. So I mean, I know you've watched it a long time. But what's the Manson program must just have some really good coaches and just a really good teaching, just the level of teaching. So why don't you just talk about the Manson coaches and your program?
Um, Mitch and Ron were our head coaches uh, for all of my brother's high school years, and they were going to retire that after my freshman year because one of their sons was graduating. But when they came out with the girls program, they decided to come back as assistant coaches. There was a coaching problem, and our head coach, he was asked not to come back. And so they kind of took up that uh, post again as head coaches, and they could not be better head coaches. I mean, like just the heart that they have for every girl on the team is just like I just I'm not really sure how to put it into words. They just care about each and every one of us so much, and they care about our success in the wrestling room and on the mat, and they also care about our success as people outside of wrestling. Like I mean, Ron, he is very, I'm not sure how to put this into words, but he really cares about the work ethic that people put in to wrestling, not so much about the results. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, if you're showing and you're trying, he believes in you. And yeah, it's just all the girls work so hard. It's a different environment than other girls' teams because the boys and the girls at my school we wrestle in the same wrestling room together, which is different than some other schools.
Yep,
But
definitely. Yeah. No, they're great coaches. I've been, in that area with South Central Calhoun prior to going to Ridgeview. So they were coaching, I was still there Stacy's last year,
oh yeah.
before he left. So I've been in that area for quite a while, and great coaches, always had good success in that and stuff. Do you see where do you see the Manson program going? I've again I'm in wrestle you guys quite often. You're at our tournament. We're at different tournaments together. We're in the area. I've seen that team just get better and better every year and grow. Where do you see the future of the Manson program?
Honestly, staying on the same trend, growing and getting better. We have a lot of our girls are newer, but we have a couple girls who have been wrestling since their middle school and before.
Yeah.
Um, we have had at least 2 to 3 state qualifiers all the past 3 years. And honestly, I don't see that changing. We have some really good girls, and
Yeah, you do. You really do.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's
and
really impressive. It's fun to watch you guys. You know, as a coach from the, I mean, I know a lot of you anyway from BV practices, but as a coach for, that competes against you, man, you know you're going to get a match when you're wrestling Manson girls. You know, so
yeah,
there's probably not a better compliment to a coach than to hear that. You know, that hey, I know I'm going to get a match when we're wrestling you. So,
yeah.
well,
And
you qualified again this year for the state tournament, girls union. What was your experience like there? I mean, and I'm not talking just on the mat. I mean, the experience overall, the back room, all the cool things that they do. What are some things that you really like about it?
um, about the tournament itself, um, to be honest, a very, it was kind of a heartbreaking tournament for me this year and my junior year as well. But other than that, I mean, I think it's really well run. I really, I've gone to Boys State, obviously, and I think that the way that they go all out for girls' finals and girls, just the whole tournament in general, I mean, it really just kind of makes you feel like they actually care. You feel pretty special when you go there, you know?
Yeah.
And it's really like, there's just kind of like this energy when you're down on an extreme arena, like on the floor. It's just, I don't even like, you can just feel all of the emotions of everything coming true for some girls and like dreams failing. And it's just kind of a mix of what the sport really is. And it's just like euphoric to be down there, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a good way. That's kind of a neat way to put it. I really like that. Have you had to sign your bracket before? Have you first?
Yes, I had to sign it last year. This year, I lost my first round, so I didn't get to sign it, but
Oh, then you
I
had to
fought
battle
back.
back a lot. So when you
It was
sign
a
the
rough
bracket,
day.
I know when I wrestled, my hands were about like this. You know, I don't know if I could sign a bracket after a match. How
Oh,
is
I
that?
know. After a good 6 minute match, my hands are shaking. But I think last year, I pinned her in the first period, so it was
Wasn't too
I was all
bad.
right.
Yeah, so you really had to battle back this year, losing a first round match, and you came back and I can't remember what place. What place did you end up getting?
I got 8, so
Eighth. Well, and I'm going to tell you, anybody that stepped on the podium this year earned that spot because this was a tough tournament on both
yes, it
1A and
was
2A. It was nuts. Just to qualify was very difficult this year. I mean, it
for sure.
was, it was tough. So, what was it like battling back? That's a lot of matches to come back on the backside.
Yeah, it was. I feel like I need to go back into my season a little bit to explain it
Okay.
better. Do you remember Ogden at the
Yes.
beginning of January?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I was wrestling a girl and I was beating her 11-0. It was second round and the beginning of the second period and I got pinned, like just caught.
Yep.
And
I
I
watched the
just,
match.
yeah, it was a rough day. And I just kept on like wondering why. And I realized it was just kind of a moment where I could build up my mental toughness of coming back from setbacks. And I came back and I got third. I ended up wrestling her again the third third and I won. But I just kept on recalling that day, the first day of state, like you can do this, you've done it before, setbacks happen, but you just got to push through.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched you wrestling a lot this year, and yeah, that was a crazy match. I think I was actually standing with the coach from, I think Ankeny, and he was just like, "What just happened there?" So
Oh
it
yeah.
was crazy. So, but those things happen in wrestling, right? And like you said, it was a building moment. You know, we don't let those losses define us. We move on, and
Yeah. I
yeah. So
mean,
no,
yeah,
it's
just gotta
tough.
you gotta look at what's in front of you, you know? I mean, I think I remember where my head was exactly in that match. And I needed 4 more back points, and I was trying to figure out how to get her on her back before I'd even taken her down, and I got caught. So just also reminding myself that I have to look at exactly what's in front of me because
Yeah.
none of the other stuff matters if I don't get past what's in front of me.
those are tough lessons that wrestling teaches you, you know,
Yeah.
and sometimes wrestlers have a really big advantage in the outside in the what we call the real world because we've gone through some different losses and different it's
Oh yeah.
one-on-one. It's different than losing with a team. It
Oh,
definitely
for
is
sure.
because you know you're sitting out there in the middle and nobody else is there to blame. Nobody dropped the ball, you know.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
that's the way it is. So as far as Northwest Iowa. Actually, let's go under your AAU state because you had a really good AAU state tournament this year.
Yeah.
How did that? I mean, going into that tournament, what was different? You ended up placing. You said is it second? Is that right?
Yes, I think.
Yeah. So that's a hell of a that's a big day, and there's a lot of really good. There's a mix of 1A and 2A schools there, so it's not just your size schools. So how was that tournament for you?
It was a lot of fun. Going in, it was my first time having a wrestling match after state, and I was really nervous. Like I said, state didn't go well, so my mind was just a little bit off. But I I won my first two matches the first day, and it just, it was a tournament that reminded me about what wrestling is supposed to be, and that's fun.
Hmm.
Like that's all, win or lose, like wrestling is just supposed to be fun. And I had fun hanging out with my teammates. I had fun hanging out with my family. And I just had fun wrestling. I ended up losing in the finals pretty bad. It was not really a close match, but I respected the girl. She was good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is what it is, you know. And this year you didn't get an opportunity to wrestle Twin River Duels, but you have wrestled the Twin River Duels before, haven't you?
Yes.
And so as far as you talk about having fun in wrestling, to me that's probably one of the most fun tournaments all year long and
Oh,
stuff.
for
So
sure.
what do you like about say that tournament?
Um, Aside from wrestling, the best part is getting to know girls in the wrestling community. Uh, I still talk to girls that I was on a team with my sophomore year at Twin Rivers. Um, we, whether it's regularly or not, but we follow each other on social media. I get to keep up on how they're doing with wrestling and other parts of life. It's just really great getting to know girls. And even if it's just for that weekend, like
Yeah.
sometimes I'll be next to a girl every duel, we'll talk the whole time, and it's just great. And then I see them at tournaments throughout the year, and then I just have these wrestling friends to talk to at tournaments. It's awesome.
Yeah, you if I remember right, you were on it was Danny and Maylee your coaches last year.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah, they were.
so yeah, because I was talking to uh, Jeff Jagger, coach at Central Lyon, George Little Rock. You know,
Oh yeah,
we had Lucy and Lucy on the team. I remember
yes,
talking about that. So that was kind of fun because we talked about that in general, and both very good wrestlers from Northwest Iowa and stuff. So that was kind of cool. I always love that tournament, and
yes,
so,
me too.
but this will be, you went last year, but you again qualified as a place winner and stuff to go down to Florida. Your experiences in Florida last year and maybe both wrestling and off the mat, and I'll share one of mine too. So go ahead.
I had so much fun in Florida. I was a little scared going into it because I was driving down solo. I don't really go much places without my, like, long distances without my parents or close friends. So that was a little scary, but I felt pretty comfortable. I mean, I knew you. Like I said, Danny was my coach and he was going down. Um, but I didn't really know any of the girls, but there were also those Grand View practices, so I got to know them a little better. But Florida is so much fun. I mean, there's something that happens after 3 days of wrestling. Like that third day, it's just brutal.
It is, isn't it? It's tough.
Yeah, but it was seriously so much fun. I mean, like I said, it was just about getting better and having fun. And when I have tournaments like that, where that is the main focus, not winning or losing, I feel like that's when I wrestle the best, you know?
Yeah. So you just said something, and I've heard, you know, and sometimes I go back and forth with people on the difference between Fargo, which is a great opportunity and a great tournament and stuff, but also Florida's not a joke tournament. And what you just said after
Mhm.
3 days of wrestling, and it's brutal and it's tough. I've heard people say, well, Florida's just a vacation. It's like, no, no, it is not a
No,
vacation. Nobody
there's definitely
goes,
vacation parts about it, but
yeah, nobody goes and wrestles 10 to 12 matches and is in the middle of June. It's not a vacation. But I'm going to tell you one of my experiences that I'll probably remember for many years to come now. And I'm glad you included me in on this was when your room and a few of your other friends said, hey, we want to go down to the ocean at sunrise. And that was
oh
it
yeah,
was such a really cool because the water was crystal clear. It was fairly calm. It was a very neat thing and stuff.
oh
So
that
I
was
mean,
gorgeous.
those I love the ocean. So I could spend all day in there. And matter of fact, I think that day I pretty much did spend the whole day in there. So, you know, any other really cool things that you're looking forward to coming back this year? Because I know we're looking at some different things this year, and Kat's out looking for some fun stuff to do. Or is there anything that you want to do down in Florida? Maybe you tell me and I can get it arranged.
Oh man, I mean, obviously Disneyland last year was so fun. That was awesome. Well, it was Hollywood Studios, but that was
Yeah.
awesome. I'm not really sure what there is to do down in Florida. I mean, I've only gone maybe once or twice, but
Yeah,
I
Jason was.
mean,
We were talking the other day, and maybe some of these things sound like fun to you. We were talking about maybe getting some fan boats out in the swamp, possibly. There
oh,
might be an alligator farm down there that we get to go hang out. And a couple years ago, I don't know if you ever saw the pictures of like Izzy sitting on top of an alligator and stuff. But yeah, we
no,
did
I
that a
haven't
couple
seen
years
it.
ago. And then there's I think there's a kayak thing out to a small island. So I mean we're looking at some fun things like that. Again, back to the luau. I didn't get to do the luau last year, so I'm excited to do it this year.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so I'm excited about that. Um, before we get away from all the Northwest Iowa wrestling, what have you seen the last in your 3 years of wrestling in Northwest Iowa, the progress of wrestling in Northwest Iowa and where we're going? I'm seeing some really good things. So I don't know what do you think? How much harder was it this year than it was last year and maybe the year before?
Um, yeah, it was harder is a hard word to define
Yeah.
because especially I feel like I just rapidly changed as a wrestler, you know? I mean, there are 10-year-olds who have been wrestling longer than me, but
Yep.
just yeah, it's um I I really see a positive like growth in Northwest Iowa wrestling. I mean, there were some good girls at our tournaments. Well, they're not there in our brackets, but I really do see us getting better um as a region. It's hard because the region that we're in, we're mostly smaller schools. I mean,
Yep.
very little of us were like 1A, 2A, maybe a couple 3As, but and if you look at the east side of the state, that's where your Davenports, your Iowa cities, like those big schools are. And it's just hard for us to compete with them. But still, as small schools, I think that we are getting better. I see
Yeah.
that
And
happening next
some
couple
of
of
the
years.
things, you talk about small schools versus those larger schools and stuff. Resources and the fact that
Mhm.
I haven't asked you yet, but I'm guessing you do more than just one sport. So,
Yes,
what are some of the other
I'm a
things you
three
do?
sport athlete. So,
Yeah. So, what are the other sports?
I played volleyball and I run track.
Yeah. So, you're not wrestling year round. Like, some of the larger schools, you have to commit to your sport. Otherwise, you're not going to be a varsity wrestler or a varsity
Oh yeah,
athlete.
for
So I mean, we
sure.
get the opportunity, and in the smaller schools, if you don't go out, you might not have a team, because they
Yeah,
need
that's
we
oh, that
need
is very true.
everybody. Yeah, you need everybody to
It's
be going out and stuff. So it's different. It's different in Northwest, Southwest Iowa. Western Iowa in general is just more rural population, right? So
yes.
yeah, no, that's I'm seeing a lot of the same things, and I think we do really well for having a lot of our athletes are 3, 4 sport athletes. And you're in other things. What else? I know you do other things because I've seen other things. What other things are you in?
Um, uh, student council, NHS. ball play. I did radio and short film for speech. Um, I've done FCCLA. I think pretty much the only program I haven't been a part of at Manson is FFA.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
pretty much
yeah.
I
See,
just
that's
didn't
a
want to self-promote.
yeah.
So,
That's you know that's amazing to do all those things and to have those opportunities to do all those different things. Um, I always ask
sorry.
people, so future plans in the sport, and I talk to people about this a lot. I'm sure you've met Nadine and you've talked to Nadine. Um, have you ever thought about officiating, or is coaching something that you've thought about? Or when you're done wrestling, are you done with the sport?
No, I will not be done with the sport when I'm done wrestling. Um, I already have my coaching classes done. I took them through online through Iowa Central. Um, so I'm definitely looking at that, whether that's at Manson or at another school. We'll see where life takes me when I graduate.
Yeah,
I've thought about officiating. I mean, officiating junior high athletics is a good kind of like side hustle for college
yeah,
students.
it sure
And
is.
so I've looked into that, but I love wrestling and I think it's just such a great sport that I mean, I want my kids to do it. I just want to be a part of it for as long as I can be.
Yeah. No, if you decide to go into officiating, I'll tell you there's a couple different resources I can get to you. But Bob Murphy and I just had a talk this last weekend at Twin Rivers. Um, of course, the IWCOA will pay for anybody that's in high school and college. They'll pay for their dues for the year, so that's always good to know. But then he said, "Man, all these kids from College and in that area where he's at, they work almost every Sunday at a youth tournament and make $150 on the weekend. That's good money for a college kid." So I think it's a great option. I'd love to have you, if you decide to stay in Northwest Iowa and you're away from Manson, maybe consider going a little farther west. It's orange and black, not orange and blue, but you'd still be all right. But let's move on. Let's talk just a little bit. Let's get to know you better, some of the things you like, and we'll mix some wrestling with some other things.
All right.
What's your favorite wrestling shoe?
Oh, my Nike Influx for sure.
There are so many people that say Inflix. I'm
Oh
probably
yeah.
gonna have to break down and try them sometime. I've always been an Asics person and not a Rudis person, but I've
Oh
had one pair of Nikes that yeah, they weren't great.
yeah.
You know,
Nike. They have some other shoes, and I've seen my friends get them, and they break down pretty quickly. But the Influx, I've had them for a couple years. My brother, they were always his favorite wrestling shoe. He's the one who told me to buy them. So
uh-huh. I might have to give them a shot. I need a new pair next year anyway. So,
definitely should.
obviously from being in the area, I always have fun shoes and stuff. Outside of wrestling, what's your favorite kicks to throw on?
Ooh, I am a big Tasman Uggs person. They are my go-to in the winter.
I, you know,
Unfortunately, I have flat feet, so they kind of give me knee problems, but they're definitely my favorite pair.
I think if it, I like Uggs. I don't have never had nor will I probably ever have a pair of Uggs, but they look good. I like them. Um, After weigh-ins, what's the go-to foods for you? What do you eat?
Ooh. Um, it depends. If it's a weekday tournament, like at night, I normally go for like one of those fruit cups, quick
Hmm.
sugars, especially if I'm not eating all day, and water. And then I normally have a sandwich. But for Saturday tournaments, my mom always makes me a breakfast burrito, and I have that in
Nice,
my energy drink.
very nice. So last weigh-in, you're done wrestling. You're never gonna have to cut weight again. Who gives a crap where we go eat? What restaurant are you going to, and what are you eating?
Ooh, that is a good question.
You can have multiple
Honestly,
courses in
probably
this
just
meal
gonna have
too.
to hit the Texas Roadhouse and get those
Okay.
rolls. What'd you say?
I said you have multiple courses if you need, if you gotta have,
Oh,
appetizers, desserts, the whole works, you can go all
oh
out.
yeah, for sure. And then probably just get a sirloin steak with some mashed potato with a baked potato at Texas Roadhouse. That would be my go-to.
Very nice. You're not
Mostly
the only
just for the
person
real
that,
stuff.
You're not the only one that says Texas Roadhouse. I love Texas Roadhouse too. We hit that quite often too.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
you like traveling. Where if you could travel anywhere for a vacation, where would you go?
Ooh, I've always wanted to go to Greece. Ooh, or maybe Italy. I've never, I've been outside of the US, but never to Europe. So that's kind of the first place on my bucket list is Greece and Italy.
Got you going on the European vacation. Sounds good.
Yeah,
So if you
one day.
at this point you may not, have traveled all the way all everywhere, but if you could have a place, where would you want to live? Is it are you an Iowa person forever? Or are you, do you want to go somewhere else?
Um, I was born in Colorado and I've always dreamed about living there. I mean, we go back and visit every couple of years, and it's just gorgeous. I mean,
Yep.
like the mountains, the rivers, lakes, just all of it. It's just stunning.
Yeah, I have a good friend that lives in Golden, Colorado, and he said if I ever get tired of waking up and looking at the mountains, I'm moving back. But I don't see myself ever waking up and being tired of looking at the mountains. So,
Oh, you can't be. I mean, oh, they're just stunning. And
yeah.
there's so much to do, whether it's in the winter or in the summer. I mean, it's just awesome.
Yeah, Colorado's a fun place to go. I visit there quite often. Um, it's second period. The other person got their choice. They deferred. On a normal match, what's your favorite place to go? If you have your choice, where are you gonna go?
Ooh. Well, see, I always look at my coaches and they always tell me to go down, which I know logically is the smarter decision. But I really like wrestling from neutral.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's where I'm strongest, to be honest.
Well, anymore, honestly, the way the scoring is done, down is not the most logical position any longer,
Yeah, that's
because
right.
if we're looking at 3-1 and that's not that the
Yeah,
two takedowns is 6-0, so
yeah, that's very
that's
true.
a way, so that it's not always the most logical choice anymore. That used to be just everybody's old school was you take down, you have to go down if you're going to be good and stuff. So
Yeah.
I think those days maybe changing a little bit with the new scoring and stuff. But let's
Yeah.
move into that. What's your favorite takedown?
My favorite takedown, probably a high crotch. It's my favorite. Ooh, or maybe an ankle pick.
Ankle pick.
Those, yeah, probably my go-tos. If none of those are working, then I probably go to a double. Don't really
So
need.
on your high C, are you switching off to a double? Or are you crack down type positions
Ooh,
or
no, no, I switch off to a double
switch
for
off to a
sure.
double? Favorite pinning combination?
Ooh, my favorite to do is probably the scrape, but I don't do it often. My most used is the half Nelson. Ooh,
Just half.
or far side cradle.
First, yep. You got the length to do some of those different things. Off the bottom, how you getting away or reversing?
This season I really have been enjoying the quad pod to knee slide. I also really like sit outs. Not a big fan of the stand up at all,
Yeah.
but I'm switches too if I need some points.
Yeah, you're kind of sitting in my wheelhouse too. Stand ups, I usually end up on my face. It seems like
Yeah,
a lot. So
yeah.
I mean, I use them if I have to, but it's not necessarily an off the whistle move for me.
Yes,
Um,
same.
do you have a pre-match ritual that kind of gets you ready to go out onto the mat? Is there stuff you do every time?
Um, yeah, it kind of depends on which match I'm in the day. Like my first couple matches, my warm up routine is a little longer, but like the farther we get into the day, the more I've wrestled, so the warmer I am, and it gets a little shorter. But I always have my headphones on at tournaments to kind of get me in the right head spot, get me pumped up. Um, but right before I still have my headphones on, I like to do some like fast feet kind of stuff, and really get my legs warmed up. I just kind of hop around, but there isn't really much to it. I have some mantras I say to myself, but other than that, not really a superstitious person.
Gotcha. I am. That's why I asked the question. See if everybody does the same things I did. And
Yeah, I
I had some
mean,
of the, I do a lot of the similar things you do. I had the things I say to myself. I had to shake my coach's hand. Had to.
um,
I don't know why. I had to. It was like a OCD thing. If I didn't shake his hand, it was going to be a horrible match, so
yeah.
it's just an odd thing. So you have your headphones in. What song or type of music are you playing pre-match?
Um, I mostly listen to rap pre-match. Um, pre-match, rap. Sometimes in between matches, I'll listen to more calming music, but right before it's rap. This season, my favorite warm-up song was "Sticky" by Tyler, the Creator, or "Barbie Dreams" by Nicki Minaj.
Nice.
I don't
So
know if you know those songs.
outside of wrestling, what's your favorite kind of music?
I am a huge Taylor Swift fan. I've been to the Eras Tour 3 times, so
You you are a T Swifter, huh?
oh yeah, for sure.
I tried to do T Swift Tuesdays at our place, but I got voted down on that. So, that
Oh
was
man, I
something.
that would have been my dream.
Yeah, I stole that from Allie at Cedar Falls. They have T Swift Tuesdays, so I
That
thought
sounds
that was.
awesome.
I think it's a great way to go. Um, as far as movies, I'm gonna just ask you a cartoon or Disney movie. What's your favorite cartoon or Disney movie?
Um, ooh, uh, I'm a big, I love Disney princesses. So either Rapunzel or Princess and the Frog. I'd have to go with one of those.
Both great
But my
choices.
favorite live action Disney princess movie is Cinderella.
Good choices. Very good choices. What's your favorite kind of movies overall?
Um, I don't really watch a lot of movies, but I do really like action movies and science
Do
fiction
you
movies. Yeah.
do you binge any TV shows or anything?
Sitcoms are my favorite. Normally rewatch the same ones, but like Friends, Gilmore Girls, How I Met Your Mother, those kind of shows. Love them.
I've probably seen Friends like a dozen, 20 times over and over and over again. You can't go
Me
wrong
too.
there.
When they took it off of Netflix, I was not happy.
So, if you could have a superpower, any superpower, what would it be and why?
Ooh, that's a good question. Probably like transportation or flying. Um, I drive at least 40 minutes every single day, so to cut down on that, that would be awesome.
It's a good practical reason for your superpower. That works awesome. Is there someone in wrestling that inspires you? And it doesn't have to be like a world team member, but it could be. It's somebody that you watch and go, I aspire to be like them.
Ooh, um, it's a good question. I follow a lot of female wrestlers on TikTok and Instagram, stuff like that. And some people that have to stick out to me are Kennedy Blades. Yeah, I mean, I'm follow a couple of them, but yeah, she obviously is a really hard worker. She's also a Christian, and I like how she advocates for that and how she mixes her religion with her sport. I mean,
Mhm.
those are two big parts of my life, and of course, they kind of intermix. So
And
I really
and
like that.
also she's a taller wrestler. You're a taller wrestler.
Yes,
Kind
for
of maybe
sure.
some similarities in the wrestling, or at least what you try to work on.
Yeah, I I I've kind of been drawn to that too. It's very common for girl wrestlers to just kind of be shorter, a bit stockier, a little bit hippier, and I'm just not built like that at all. So sometimes it's been an advantage, sometimes it puts me at a disadvantage, but just gotta learn how to wrestle, you know?
Yeah, everybody's body type's a little bit different. You're right.
Yeah.
A lot of the
And
girls are about 5 foot nothing, and their weight goes on how thick they are.
yeah,
That's kind of how
exactly.
it is. But yeah, the taller wrestlers, I always struggle. I'm not very tall myself, so I always struggled with people like you. You tall people. Um, is there something your coaches say, or something that you can like say all the time that you're probably going to remember forever. If you start coaching, you're probably going to say the same things. There's things that my coaches always said to me that I still use today. Is there something that they constantly, you hear it in the back of your head all the time?
Oh man, probably one from each. From Ron, he tells us over and over again that the easiest thing to do is quit. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. And normally following up that is he says that once you quit once, just gets easier and easier and easier to do again. Um, and Mitch, before like our big tournaments, well, before tournaments, he tells us a lot. Just have fun. Like you you're prepared for this. Like you're gonna wrestle how you wrestle. But the most important part about this sport is to have fun.
Yeah.
And so I
Very
just
good.
remember that.
Both great pieces of advice, really are.
Yeah,
They're really good
also
stuff.
yeah, it shows a little bit about the character personality of our coaches.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, they're good guys, very good guys. Um,
Great. Yeah.
you just got the job. You're the head of the NFHS rules committee. You can
Yeah.
change any rule or make any rule in wrestling that you would like. What rule are you changing or making?
No headlocks in the first period.
Does that have something to do with maybe your first round match at state? Was that what happened?
More, yeah. No, more like my first year of wrestling. Had no idea how to defend a headlock, so there were several times I got
Gotcha.
headlocked in the first
So
period.
no headlocks in the first period. That makes sense. I like it. It's a good rule. It's a good rule.
I
Um,
mean, something you
I've
gotta do in
gotten
the sport.
through. I think I've gotten through every single one of my things on my thing, and actually we've been talking quite a while, but
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the opportunity. Final thoughts. It doesn't have to be profound, but I would expect Lucy to have some pretty profound thoughts and stuff. So if you want to give us a final thought for the evening, go ahead.
I don't really have much to say. I mean, this sport just kind of it really it really changed my life, to be honest, when I started wrestling. There is a I feel like everyone changes throughout high school, but closing in on my final weeks, I'm kind of like looking back at who I was when I started high school, and I'm just a very different person. And I think wrestling is the biggest factor of that. Um, it gave me a lot of purpose, a lot of ambition, a lot of drive. I've always been a hard worker, but I just haven't often had something to work towards, and that's what wrestling has done for me, to be honest. Um, Volleyball and track have always kind of fallen in the middle of the pack, and they're not. I enjoy them, but they're not great loves of mine the way wrestling is. And I think it's the greatest sport in the world.
Awesome. Well, I just got to say I've really enjoyed getting to know you over the last few years. I'm happy I've met your parents. You have a great family. I'm excited to travel with you one more time. We'll recreate that morning, watch the sunrise, and
Oh,
we'll
for
get a
sure.
whole
I'm
new
down.
we'll get a whole new group of girls, and we'll have a good time. But I look forward to watching your college career, and hopefully you come replace me as a coach at Ridgeview. That would be awesome. So
We'll
my
see.
old bones can become a fan. So no, I thank you very much for coming on and doing this. And
Of course.
I'm gonna
Thank you
go
for
ahead
having me.
I'm gonna go ahead and hit the record button or the stop record button and go ahead and stick
All
around now
right.
just for a minute.